We have U.S. biowarfare researchers in the Ebola zone. Fort Detrick, people there, they just released a paper to the CDC about a month ago admitting that the particular strain that they're working with, that the U.S. government has a patent on, may have been responsible for the particular outbreak that's going on in Sierra Leone. Well, that's frightening.
That is. I personally don't know really much about that particular statement. But you can think of it this way: with bioweapons researchers, they're especially working for the U.S. military in that aspect, they're going to be the top in the field, and they're going to know the most about a certain subject. In this case, Ebola, BDBV. So they're the ones who are going to be out there knowing, okay, so this strain does this, and this, and by using these synthesized proteins or whatever, we may be able to put a stop on it. And by them actually, to comment on the quote itself, if they're the cause of it, I don't know. I honestly couldn't tell you. I know that would actually be in violation of certain Geneva Convention codes and rules of war and all that jazz. That's why we went to Iraq, back in early 2000s, was because they were using chemical weapons on in northern Iraq. We went there to stop that. And if we're doing that to Central Africa, Southern Africa, then that pretty much just makes us hypocrites. But I don't know anything about that personally. I haven't seen that article or read about it. So I really can't make an informed comment on that, if that makes sense.
Right, absolutely. Well, it just kind of proves that we need to have a deeper investigation into what exactly they're studying there at that lab. I'm sure they'll claim all sorts of, national security issues with
of course,
finding out what they're doing in there. But that's a huge cause for concern if they're actually admitting that could potentially have caused that current outbreak. But are we seeing here with this, where the media here is really hyping it up? We've got CNN standing outside the hospitals reporting on all of these people that are showing symptoms of Ebola. Meanwhile, like we discussed yesterday, you said having the flu or, mono could give you Ebola-like symptoms.
Right.
I feel like this is kind of what we saw leading up to the swine flu when they really rolled it out and rushed out the vaccines.
It's there are a lot of things. It's worst case scenario, so once, it's like, okay, say you're in college and you haven't taken a psychology class, but you're going to just take an abnormal psychology class. All of a sudden you have everything in that class because you start fitting certain criteria. What the doctors will do when a person's like, I think I got Ebola, right? They're going to quarantine them. They're going to do it. because it's protocol. And then they're going to test for, certain things like malaria, typhoid fever, shigellosis, cholera, and a whole slew of other things, because they have to rule out these other ones first, because basically Ebola is a death sentence, and they can actually combat, if you will, maybe not cure, but combat some of these other viruses and other diseases. But again, it's just really, these people are, I'm sick. I have it because I have so many symptoms. I have a headache. I have a backache. That could be any number of things. It starts out like a lot of other viruses or diseases, and then goes from there. You'll know you have Ebola after about 2 weeks when you start bleeding out. Just saying. Right.
Well, it seems like there are certain people that are going to profit off of having this potential scare. Obviously, we heard about Donald Rumsfeld and Dick Cheney, really profiting off Tamiflu with the whole swine flu thing. Of course, a lot of people died as a result of the rushing out of that vaccine. We don't really hear about that. They pulled, Tamiflu off the shelves and everything like that. And now they're saying they want to rush out this new Ebola vaccine. Meanwhile, Ebola it's not even a huge pandemic at the moment. We've got 2 cases of people we've actually brought into the country, nothing that's actually been here.
Exactly. We've had Ebola as the virus itself in the United States at least since the 80s. Has been, like I said, been in 4 labs, at least 4 labs in DC and in Atlanta. But you said something earlier yesterday that actually really connects to this. It's the best way to control people is through fear. So you want to sell a product, make these people think they need it. Send like all this, and I'm not because I personally don't know Donald Rumsfeld or any of them personally. I mean, they could be great people. They just have bad ideas. I don't know. But that's what I see. I see causing a panic and then causing a need for something and then creating profits out of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that to me, that's what it is. It's just they're creating this panic. You bring a guy over, all of a sudden, opportunity for money. In my opinion, and this is just me, in my opinion, there is no reason to be afraid because the CDC has things under control. Yes, there is a potential for human error, but I believe given the circumstances of this virus and the fact that there's really only 2 people that we know of for a fact that have it in the United States, and they're both under quarantine by the CDC, who works directly with the World Health Organization, who are the 2 greatest, companies or organizations rather on the planet for biological, and biological and contagion, elements of science, if you will. They're in great hands, and again, with barring any kind of human error, it's perfectly safe
to bring these people into the country.
Mm.
Well, so do you have any advice for people, anything that they can particularly do if they are just very fearful, short of rushing out, getting this experimental vaccine that they're talking about pushing out in September? What are some other things people can be aware of, take precautions, things like that?
Inform yourself, really. The best thing you could do is become knowledgeable. Go to the CDC websites, go to the World Health Organization websites, pick up a book, actually learn about this thing, learn about what it does, how it does. And then once you see that, actually figure out, okay, now how are they controlling it? Again, the CDC websites have all this information. The World Health Organization have all this information, and they're actually hotlines, to the World Health Organization and the CDC to ask these things, to inquire about it. And just treat it like the cold. If someone's coughing, get away from there. If someone just, if someone has what you feel to be a symptom of Ebola, obviously make them wear a mask and then get them to the doctor to get them checked out. That's best you can do. There is no magical cure. Like I read someplace that it said, if I eat 3 onions a day, I won't get, Ebola. No, that's a terrible idea. It might help your ulcers, but no, there is no magical pill or magical cure or magical anything for this. You just have to be informed and cautious. Don't be afraid of it. Because you're afraid of it, then it's going to cause you to do erratic things and things that you wouldn't normally do, which may actually end up in a self-fulfilling prophecy. But just be knowledgeable about it, really.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I mean, I'm still a little, even though I want to put all my trust into the CDC and the World Health Organization, we know they get kind of their bread and butter from vaccines and big pharma. So it's a little, kind of those things. But I am kind of really wanting people to be cautious about getting caught up in all the fear surrounding this, because it's definitely a form of control.
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, the best thing you could do is just inform yourself. Mm-hmm. Learn about it, study it, know it. So.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Well, Christopher Paolo has more than 10 years of extensive research into this disease. He doesn't believe that Ebola is something we need to be really concerned with at the moment. Presently, as today, there are just a little over 900 cases of people who've actually died from this current outbreak of Ebola. No cases so far here in the U.S., save for those 2 Americans who've been brought in by the State Department, who says it's perfectly fine, perfectly safe that they are being brought in. So the question is, why are the media really ramping this up as a potential national health scare, something we really need to be concerned about? Why are they pushing out an experimental Ebola vaccine in September? Why does Obama all of a sudden grant himself new executive authority to detain and quarantine people who are showing Ebola-like symptoms? He already had the authority to quarantine and detain people showing symptoms of kind of flu-like symptoms, but now he specifically granted himself the authority with Ebola. Of course, then we have the CDC changing their website, updating it really to give the American people tips on how they can protect themselves and prevent Ebola, where that wasn't the case just a few days ago. It wasn't even there. So why is this something that's really being brought about into the collective consciousness now of something that we need to be concerned about. There are no cases of Ebola in the United States that we're aware of, unless, you know, human error causes it to be so after bringing it here into this country. Who stands to profit from a potential pandemic? Is it, you know, the same with the swine flu, where people who are creating this vaccine are going to be making all of this money? Speaking of vaccines, that experimental vaccine that the 2 American patients have been treated with, it seems to be helping them. In fact, that doctor who created that was actually one that was caught on video several years ago joking about wiping out the population of, you know, a large portion of the population with a GMO vaccine. He was kind of joking about that. So, you know, that could just be obviously a coincidence here, but the fact that Ebola is now being touted as something that could be wiping out large portions of the population, something that we really need to be concerned with. Like Christopher Paolo said, turning something like Ebola into a bioweapon would be completely mental. You can't control it, and it would wipe out 90% of the population if it was allowed to spread like wildfire. And just refer back to the Georgia Guidestones, and something like Ebola wiping out the population is directly in line with the globalist plan to clean up the planet. So I don't really know where to go with this. Presently, I would agree with Christopher, educate yourself. Don't buy into the fear at this moment. Don't go lining up to get those experimental vaccines. But again, we're just gonna have to do a little bit more research and find out what the end game is with this current pandemic. Now, coming up right after this, we are going to be giving you an update on Jesse Ventura.
This is Alex Jones for InfoWarsLife.com. The latest in preparedness is now here. An electrically stabilized colloidal silver solution that can be added to both your home cabinet and preparedness pack alike. Concentrated to 30 parts per million in what has been dubbed the survival silver solution. And it's entirely free of toxic artificial additives that are loaded into many products. Purchase your bottle of InfoWarsLife.com Silver Bullet Colloidal Silver today and find other amazing supplements at InfoWarsLife.com.
City of Austin tap water versus filtered City of Austin tap water.
I can taste dirt in it.
God knows what's in this.
This has an aftertaste.
Tastes like Austin water? Yeah, it does. Ah.
These people just sampled City of Austin tap water straight from the faucet. Next, we had them try a sample of tap water filtered through the Pro Pure G2.0 filtration system.
High quality H2O.
That one is better.
Tastes like nothing.
Yep, I know what good water tastes like. It's good water.
Most tap water contains added substances like fluoride, chlorine, Monsanto's deadly pesticide, glyphosate, and many others. Studies prove that these substances are linked to an assortment of major health issues, including tooth decay, lowered IQ, and even cancer.
It tastes like you're drinking out of the lake when you're drinking tap water.
Yeah, it has that processed flavor to it.
The Pro Pure G2.0 filtration system removes these deadly substances and many more, leaving only fresh-tasting, deliciously clean water.
Okay, this is very tasty.
It's good water.
Refreshing.
It's good.
Go to InfoWarsStore.com today. Use promo code WATER and save 10% off your Pro Pure purchase. Again, that's InfoWarsStore.com or call 1-888-253-3139.
Tonight, Jesse Ventura sets the record straight on the Chris Kyle lawsuit. This following an especially vindictive response by the media for Ventura's attempt to clear his name and save his reputation.
So the jury yesterday found defamation of character, ordered Kyle's estate to pay Ventura $1.8 million. Keep in mind, Mr. Kyle is dead.
We have multiple sound bites, multiple quotes from Jesse Ventura, and comments against our own military and this nation.
But it seems like the height of cruelty to punish the guy's wife, and that is what Jesse Ventura has done.
I mean, everyone's jaw is dropped today.
Now, we all know Chris Kyle was a legendary Navy SEAL sniper who defamed Jesse Ventura in 2012. This was shortly after he released his book, and he appeared on national television claiming that he actually punched Jesse Ventura in the face.